Imagine this. A whisper travels through the ancient courts of power, a hushed reverence for those few who seem to glide above the fray. They aren't necessarily the loudest, the richest, or even the most overtly dominant. Instead, there's an aura about them, an almost imperceptible boundary that keeps others perpetually seeking, forever reaching, yet never quite grasping. You observe them, mesmerized, as their presence commands attention, not through force, but through an intrinsic magnetism. They move through the world as if protected by an invisible shield, their desires pursued with an unyielding intensity, while others' attempts to ensnare them fall short, dissolving like smoke. Have you ever felt it? That gnawing desire to be on the other side of that equation? To be the one who dictates the terms, whose absence creates a void, whose presence is a privilege. We are taught, from the cradle, to seek connection, to build bridges, to make ourselves accessible. Society whispers tales of vulnerability, of open hearts, of the strength found in merging with the collective. Yet, lurking beneath this veneer of conventional wisdom, a darker, more potent truth stirs. What if the ultimate power lies not in being reachable, but in becoming profoundly, unsettlingly unattainable? Consider the paradox. We chase what flees, value what is scarce, and obsess over what is just beyond our reach. Why do we elevate the distant star above the readily available flame? Why does the closed door command more intrigue than the open one? This isn't merely a fleeting psychological quirk. It's a deep-seated human imperative, a primal response etched into our very being. We are drawn to the challenge, to the mystery, to the prize that demands effort and sacrifice. And when someone embodies that elusive quality, when they exist in a state of self-contained sovereignty, they don't just attract, they compel. Think of the artists whose genius was often accompanied by an enigmatic detachment, the philosophers whose solitude birthed world-changing ideas, the leaders whose strategic withdrawals amplified their eventual impact. They weren't ignoring the world out of spite, but rather they understood an ancient, almost forgotten principle, that true influence often stems from a position of unassailability. They cultivated an inner fortress, not to keep others out entirely, but to control the terms of entry, to elevate the value of their presence by the very nature of its scarcity. This isn't about arrogance, nor is it about emotional manipulation in its crudest form. It's about a profound understanding of human nature, a Machiavellian insight into the levers of desire, respect, and fascination. It's about recognizing that in a world awash with instant gratification and relentless accessibility, the one who possesses their own center of gravity, who refuses to be easily defined or fully possessed, becomes a force unlike any other. They cease to be just another individual in the vast ocean of humanity. They transform into an archetype, a legend in the making. But what truly happens when you transcend the need for constant validation, when you withdraw the easy access to your time, your energy, your very essence? What unseen mechanisms click into place? What profound shifts occur not only in how others perceive you, but in the very fabric of your own existence? The answers are far more unsettling and far more empowering than you could possibly imagine. They challenge every comfort zone, every societal expectation, every notion of what it means to truly thrive. Prepare to confront a truth that will redefine your understanding of power, influence, and the relentless human pursuit of what is truly valuable. What if the path to true authority lies not in relentless pursuit, but in radical withdrawal? The journey into this hidden problem and its psychological roots begins now. This pull towards attainability, this deep-seated need to be available and approved of, is not a simple flaw in character. It is a carefully constructed psychological prison, built brick by brick from the moment you were born. The very architecture of our society is designed to reward conformity and accessibility. You are taught, through 1,000 subtle and overt lessons, that your value is extrinsic, a reflection in the eyes of others. To be loved, you must be agreeable. To be safe, You must belong to the herd. To succeed, you must be what others need you to be. This is the great unspoken contract of modern existence. Trade your sovereignty for security, your authenticity for acceptance. The roots of this dilemma run deeper than mere social conditioning. They burrow into the very bedrock of our psyche. The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung identified a crucial component of our mental landscape: the persona. The persona is the mask you present to the world. It is the curated, socially acceptable version of you. The good employee, the loving partner, the reliable friend. It is designed for maximum attainability, a perfectly crafted interface for seamless social interaction. The hidden problem, the silent tragedy of so many lives, is when you forget that you are wearing a mask. You begin to believe the persona is your true self. Your identity becomes a collection of roles you play, an echo of external expectations, and the vast, untamed wilderness of your authentic self, your passions, your dark thoughts, your singular genius, is left to atrophy in the shadows. You become a hollow vessel, exquisitely decorated but empty within, perpetually seeking validation to confirm that the mask is still working. Friedrich Nietzsche saw this on a societal scale, diagnosing it as the triumph of herd morality. The herd, he argued, fears the individual who stands apart, the one who creates their own values, who walks their own path, who is, by their very nature, unattainable. The herd champions virtues that make individuals manageable: humility, pity, and agreeableness. It demonizes the virtues of the powerful: pride, ambition, and a healthy degree of detachment. To be attainable is to be a good member of the herd, predictable, controllable, and ultimately weak. The pursuit of unattainability, therefore, is not an act of arrogance, but an act of rebellion. It is the Übermensch's struggle to break free from the gravitational pull of mediocrity, to stop asking for permission to exist and to instead declare, "I am." This declaration is terrifying, for it means leaving the warmth and safety of the collective for the cold, exhilarating freedom of the solitary peak. This terror is not merely social, it is existential. The French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre would argue that we are condemned to be free. This terrible freedom is the crushing weight of being solely responsible for creating our own meaning and essence in a meaningless universe. To be attainable is to escape this burden. By letting others define you, by living to fulfill their expectations, you outsource the terrifying task of self-creation. You become an object in their world rather than the sovereign author of your own. Your life is no longer a blank canvas for you to paint upon, but a pre-drawn coloring book where you are expected to stay within the lines drawn by others. The constant need for connection and approval is a frantic attempt to fill the existential void, to distract from the dizzying vertigo of absolute freedom. And what of the force that makes this unattainability so magnetic to others? We can look to Arthur Schopenhauer's concept of the will, a blind, insatiable, striving force that animates all of existence. The will is a perpetual state of wanting. When a person is easily attainable, they provide a brief satisfaction to another's will and are then quickly forgotten as the will moves on to its next object of desire. But the unattainable individual does something different. They frustrate the will. By being sovereign, self-contained, and beyond easy grasp, they become a fixed point of obsession. They represent an unconquered territory, a mystery to be solved, a summit to be scaled. Their unattainability doesn't just attract, it amplifies the pursuer's own life force, focusing their entire being on the prize that remains just out of reach. You cease to be a fleeting satisfaction and become a profound, enduring challenge to the very engine of their desire. So you see, the problem is not that you are weak. It is that you have been expertly tamed. You have been convinced that the gilded cage of social acceptance is a paradise, all while the wild, sovereign creature within you starves. You have mistaken the echoes of others' applause for the sound of your own heartbeat. But this choice, This retreat into the safety of being attainable is not without its cost. It carries unseen consequences that silently poison your reality, shaping your destiny in ways you are only just beginning to suspect. The consequences of this deep-seated need for attainability are not sudden or dramatic. They do not arrive like a thunderclap. Instead, they are a slow, creeping erosion, a subtle poison that leaches the color from your life so gradually that you may not notice until you are living in a world of gray. This is the unseen trap. You believe you are building bridges, but you are actually weaving the bars of your own invisible cage. Every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you preemptively offer your time and energy without being asked, you hand over another piece of your sovereignty. Your energy ceases to be a precious, self-directed resource and becomes a public utility available to whoever taps into the line. Cognitive science reveals just how deep this trap runs. Our brains are wired with heuristics, mental shortcuts that govern our perception of value. One of the most powerful is the scarcity heuristic. What is rare is valuable. What is abundant is cheap. By making yourself constantly available, you are signaling to the deepest, most primitive parts of others' brains that you are a resource of low value. Your presence, once a gift, becomes an expectation. Your advice, once sought after, becomes background noise. You are the book that is always open on the table, and so no one ever feels the urgent need to read you. In the ruthless marketplace of human attention, you have made yourself the most common of commodities. This initiates a devastating psychological feedback loop. Once people perceive you as perpetually attainable, they lock you into that role. This is the confirmation bias at work. They will subconsciously seek and interpret your behaviors to fit their pre-existing image of you. Even if you try to pull back, your efforts will be seen as an anomaly, a temporary mood, rather than a fundamental shift. You become trapped in the persona they have co-created for you. Furthermore, this dynamic quietly sabotages any chance for deep, mutual investment. Consider the Ben Franklin effect, a psychological phenomenon where a person who has performed a favor for someone is more likely to like them. By always being the giver, the one performing the favors, you deny others the opportunity to invest in you. You become a source, a provider, a function, but rarely a cherished individual for whom sacrifices are made. They are not bonded to you through their own effort, they are merely accustomed to your output. On a neurological level, the consequences are even more stark. The human brain's reward system, governed by the neurotransmitter dopamine, is not stimulated by predictability. It is electrified by novelty and intermittent reinforcement. An attainable person is predictable. Your responses, your availability, your support, they are a steady, reliable drip. This provides comfort, but it does not create craving, fascination, or intense desire. The unattainable person, however, operates on an intermittent reward schedule. Their attention is a prize, their presence a rare event. This uncertainty, the will they or won't they, sends the dopamine system into overdrive. It is the same neurological mechanism that drives gambling addictions. The pursuer becomes addicted not to the person themselves, but to the thrilling, unpredictable chase. You, with your dependable presence, cannot compete with this potent neurochemical cocktail. You offer a healthy meal, while they offer an intoxicating drug. But the most devastating consequence is not what happens in the minds of others, but what happens within your own. Living under the constant weight of the persona, catering to the endless demands of the herd, creates a profound internal schism. The authentic self, the sovereign, powerful core of your being, is starved, silenced, and imprisoned. A quiet resentment begins to fester. You feel a chronic exhaustion that no amount of sleep can cure. It is the exhaustion of the soul. You may find yourself becoming cynical, passive-aggressive, or plagued by a sense of meaninglessness. This is the cry of your neglected self, railing against the cage you have so diligently maintained. You are living a life that is fundamentally misaligned with your own nature, a performance for an audience that will never truly know or value the real you. The urgency, then, is this. You are not just being undervalued, you are slowly being erased. The longer you remain in this trap, the more the mask fuses to your skin, and the fainter the memory of your true face becomes. To break free is no longer a matter of gaining influence or power. It is a matter of psychic survival. The diagnosis is grim. The walls of the trap are real, and you feel them closing in. The weight of this realization is enough to induce a state of paralysis, a feeling that you are too deeply entangled in the patterns of a lifetime to ever break free. But it is precisely here, in this moment of near despair, that the seeds of rebellion are sown. Because the escape from this prison is not a matter of gentle reform. It is a declaration of war. It is a violent, beautiful, and necessary uprising against the tyranny of your own conditioning, against the silent expectations of the world, and against the accommodating mask you have worn for far too long. The first, most radical act of this rebellion is a profound shift in perspective. Your entire life, you have been oriented outwards, using the reactions of others as a compass to navigate your own worth. You have been searching for your reflection in 1,000 different eyes, hoping to finally see something of value looking back. The rebellion begins when you shatter all the mirrors. You must make the terrifying, liberating decision to become the sole source of your own validation. This is the great inward turn. Your worth is not a subject for debate. It is not a stock to be traded on the open market of public opinion, and it is not a prize to be won through good behavior. It is an axiom, a self-evident truth. Unattainability, you will discover, is not a strategy you employ. It is the natural byproduct of unshakable self-possession. From this new center of gravity, you will learn to wield your first and most powerful weapon, the word no. For the attainable person, no is a word coded in guilt and fear. For the sovereign individual, no is a sacred act of self-preservation. It is not an act of aggression towards others, but an act of loyalty towards yourself. Your no becomes the clear, resonant bell that defines the boundaries of your kingdom, your time, your energy, your mental peace. When you say it, without apology, without justification, you are not closing a door on someone else. You are locking the gate to your own inner fortress, reminding the world that entry is a privilege, not a right. Next, you must master the counterintuitive art of strategic absence. Machiavelli understood that what is always seen is eventually overlooked. Your constant presence has rendered you invisible. To reclaim your power, you must learn to withdraw. Disappear not with anger, but with purpose. Take time for yourself where you are completely unreachable. Let calls go to voicemail. Let messages sit unread. Pursue your own goals, projects, and passions with a monastic focus that leaves little room for trivial interruptions. This creates a vacuum. In your absence, your presence is felt more acutely than ever before. People are forced to confront the space you once occupied, and in doing so, they begin to recognize its true value. Your silence will begin to speak more loudly than your eager words ever did. They will start to wonder what you are thinking, not just what you can do for them. This is the birth of mystery, the very quality that fuels fascination. Think of the Stoic emperor, Marcus Aurelius. Here was a man who commanded the most powerful empire on earth, constantly besieged by demands, politics, and the needs of millions. Yet his true power emanated from his inner citadel, the unbreachable fortress of his own mind, which he cultivated every morning through his meditations. He engaged with the world, but he was not dependent on its applause. His actions were guided by an internal code of virtue, not a thirst for external approval. He was the most powerful man in the world precisely because the world could not truly touch his core. He was attainable in his duties, but his spirit was sovereignly, magnificently unattainable. This is the path. You are not learning to be cold or manipulative. You are learning to be self-governed. You are abdicating the exhausting role of the court jester, desperate for a scrap of approval and ascending to your own internal throne. From this seat of power, your actions are no longer pleas, but decrees. Your time is a gift you bestow with intention. Your attention is a resource you allocate with wisdom. You are no longer reacting to the world. You are compelling the world to react to you. This is the rebellion that breaks you free. And once you have taken back your power, you are ready to discover the ultimate truth of what it means to exist on your own terms. You have waged the rebellion. You have tasted the power of a well-placed no, felt the profound respect earned through strategic absence, and begun to build the foundations of your own inner throne. You might believe this is the destination, a life of newfound control, of holding the upper hand in the subtle dance of human dynamics. But this is merely the final base camp before the summit. The ultimate truth, the realization that re-engineers your entire reality, lies just ahead, and it is more profound than mere influence or power. It is a truth that will make all your past struggles for validation seem like a distant, half-forgotten dream. Here it is. The frantic, lifelong quest to be valued, loved, and desired by others was never actually about them. It was a projection. The person whose approval you were so desperately contorting yourself to win, the one you believed held the key to your self-worth, was never your partner, your parent, your boss, or your friends. It was you. You were outsourcing the most fundamental human responsibility, the act of self-acceptance, and begging others to do the job for you. You looked to them to grant you the permission you refused to grant yourself. Permission to be flawed, to be powerful, to be complex, to simply be. Your neediness was the ghost of your own abandoned self, haunting the lives of others in search of a home. This realization triggers the final, most significant paradigm shift. The entire dynamic of attainable versus unattainable dissolves into irrelevance. You see it for what it was, a game played only by those who are not yet whole. As long as you were consciously trying to be less attainable, you were still playing, still defining yourself by the inverse of others' expectations. The ultimate freedom is not to become strategically unavailable, but to transcend the game entirely. You stop trying to control their desire and focus instead on cultivating your own soul. Your unattainability is no longer a tactic. It becomes an effortless, authentic expression of your being. You become like the ocean. The ocean does not withhold its waves to make the ships respect it more. It does not crash upon the shore seeking the sand's approval. It simply is in all of its immense, self-contained power. It is deep, mysterious, and governed by its own internal tides. Ships may navigate it. People may admire it, but none can ever possess it. Your presence in the world becomes like this. You can be warm, generous, and deeply engaged, but this warmth emanates from an internal sun, not a desperate need for reflected light. Your generosity flows from a place of infinite abundance, not from a transactional need to be liked. Your boundaries are no longer fortified walls you must aggressively defend. They are the natural shoreline of your being, and others instinctively understand where the land ends and the sea begins. This is the nature of ultimate power. It is not the ability to make others do what you want. It is the existential freedom that comes from no longer needing anything from them at all. Not their applause, not their validation, not even their attention. The frantic energy of the chase, both of pursuing and being pursued, is replaced by a profound, sovereign peace. Your struggles suddenly become clear. You were trying to solve an internal problem with an external solution. You were trying to fill a hole in your soul with the fleeting admiration of others. Look around you now. See the world of frantic connection, of people performing for each other, desperately signaling their worth, trading their authenticity for a moment of validation. You can see it with compassion, but you are no longer a part of it. You have ceased to be a reflection and have become a source. You are no longer an object defined by the desire of the pursuer. You have become the architect of your own universe. And the question that haunts you is no longer, how can I make them value me? Instead, a new, far more powerful question begins to echo in the quiet chambers of your reclaimed soul. Now that I am finally free, what masterpiece will I create with this life?